dealing with the delivery of wholly online education. And so we've seen this a lot recently over the last few years with places like Swinburne Online and Open Universities Australia for longer, and other places, and other institutions trying to deliver wholly online education. So I said I would sort of organise a session where we could talk about this, and this is this session. So we want it to be open and discussive, and if anybody wants to contribute, they can do. I'm going to talk a little bit first, if that's all right, about my experiences with Swinburne Online, with Chisholm Online, and with Graduate Online Melbourne. And then I'll also talk a little bit about private providers. The three-letter acronym is Online Program Managers. So these are a group of private companies that offer these sorts of services. Then Andrea is going to talk a little bit about using open platforms like FutureLearn and other things, and she might also talk a little bit about OUA. What we're going to talk about is basically what we've seen mainstream universities developing, and after that Leigh's got some thoughts that he'd like to share with us, which are very interesting thoughts about alternative ways of doing things, delivering online education from universities. Then we'll have a discussion. So we're going to try and step through this reasonably quickly, but if you want to ask questions during the course of this presentation or these presentations, just dive in. It's only a small group, so that's fine. So that's just what I've said. These are what we're going to go through and have a look at, and hopefully we'll have a good idea of what the different options are, so what some of the issues are, and how different places have gone about trying to solve those. And it might help us a bit and inform our thinking when we think about what RMIT is going to do or is doing, whether it should be doing things in a slightly different way. And there are some successes, and I'll point out the things that I think have worked well. There are some things that have gone horribly wrong, and I'll point those out as well. We're recording this session. I'm not sure where it'll go in the end, because some things might be a bit,
Might have to eat it.
Indeed.
When we're finished. I'm just going to move over here so I can see. Be closer to the microphone, should I say? Appropriate.
So these are, I've written a blog post on this, and this is some of the diagrams I started to work on. And so I'm going to talk about it says option 2 actually, should be option 1 in this list. But it's to develop the capability for delivering wholly online courses within a university itself. And the two examples I'm going to talk about are Chisholm Online and Graduate Online Melbourne. And essentially this involves bringing together a team of designers and developers who have sufficient critical mass in order to cope with the complexities of wholly online delivery. Not just them, of course, because you have to have the subject matter experts as well. So it's the key relationship here is and in fact the key relationship in all of these efforts is the relationship between the designers and developers and the subject matter experts, who are also going to be, in many cases, the teachers as well. One of the reasons why these sorts of groups have started to be developed and built internally is because after over 20 years it's been difficult to upskill sufficient staff around the institution and the complexities of wholly online delivery. In fact, many would say it's been very difficult to get staff upskilled in blended learning, and the variety of options that are available now are hugely complex. When I started lecturing 20 odd years ago, lectures, tutorials, some labs, and now you have to think about 1,000,001 things about whether you're going to use a blog, a wiki, whether you're going to use lecture capture and all sorts of things. It becomes very complex. And that complexity is more so in wholly online, because you have a whole heap of extra things you have to think about with the online learning experience. So this is this model with a central group. It could be in a university of our size, it could be several central groups, it could be college-based. But you need to have sufficient critical mass, and universities are often reluctant to invest that heavily. Some of them do. Chisholm isn't a university, of course, but a couple of years ago it started to develop Chisholm Online initiative to deliver wholly online courses. These are vet courses. What they did was start to develop an in-house capability, working with their own staff, and they employed externals. In fact, it was Joyce and myself as academic tribe at that time to actually build the content. So the learning designers worked directly with the subject matter experts to create a whole heap of online courses. Apart from that, it's very traditional. It runs in Moodle. The course delivery is very traditional. It's card-based pedagogy. It's highly instructivist. It's chunked material that you step through with quizzes. Quite boring, I think. At the other end of the scale, but very similar in many ways, the University of Melbourne, with their graduate online initiative, is aimed at delivering wholly online master's degree courses. There's a small number at the moment. Again, they're centrally located. They've built up a team of technologists, designers and developers, and they work with subject matter experts. They use Blackboard as their LMS. Again, it's a very traditional approach. There's nothing that would surprise you really, apart from the amount of effort that goes into the design of their courses, because they have the additional resources to do it. But there's nothing very exciting about the way that they're doing it, I don't think. And certainly some of the things that Leigh will suggest, and some of the things that we in this our team are already doing with people like architecture are in many ways much more exciting than what Go Melbourne are doing.
What is the model they use, Mark?
So they work on, I think it's about an 8-week schedule for their courses. They have a separate instance of Blackboard. The students enroll into that, into their student management system, which is then connected to Blackboard. And then their pedagogy, again, I think it's highly instructivist. It's very MOOC or like videos, readings, lots of readings, and some quizzes. There's not a lot of social constructivism in there. There's really nothing too exciting, I don't think. And I guess there's a tendency from a lot of institutions to be quite conservative in this, which is a shame, I think. I think they think they're pushing the boundaries in some respects, but therefore they have to be quite reticent in others about how they actually go about changing their pedagogies. The next one is slightly different in that it talks about creating a semi-external design and development capability rather than an internal one. And the variation on this is to create one with a partner, and this is essentially the Swinburne Online model. The partner organisation in blue is Seek. The larger circle is Swinburne University, and the institute, the capability organisation sits in between those. One of the reasons that this is done like this is it was felt in Swinburne Online's case it was desirable to take the capability out of the institution and give it its own separate identity. I don't think that this is exactly why they did it, but one of the things that Clayton Christensen talks about in coping with disruptive innovation is the way that traditional industries or businesses or services can cope with that is to create what Christensen calls a semi-autonomous organisation. So it's an organisation that is free of the existing business rules of the parent institution, and it's something that is allowed to experiment and to do things differently. So this is what they try to do with Swinburne Online. They deliberately located it off campus. One of the things that they perceive as being problematic, and I think is a real challenge, is the relationship between the subject matter expert and the designer developer. There is a tradition in universities of a master-servant relationship, as you'll be aware, between academics and professional staff members. I've been on both sides of that, so I'm acutely aware of how that works. At Graduate Online Melbourne, when I was there, I spent a lot of time working on the colour and positioning of buttons with a particularly irksome academic who knew nothing about online learning. He knew a lot about his field of expertise. He knew nothing about online learning, but would insist on telling me. So the way that Swimmen Online worked was that they would take the designers, developers out of that immediate contact. They had very rigorous and organised interrelationships between the subject matter expert and the designer developer, where content would be swapped, would be given, and then courses would then be developed essentially in isolation. I don't think that was perfect by any means, but I do think that there is a real issue that needs to be overcome with the relationship between subject matter experts and learning designers. So Swimmen Online started with a $10 million investment in 2012 between SEEK and Swimmen University. It now has about 200 staff, about 8,000 students, and in 2014 it was the fourth fastest growing company in Australia. They use Blackboard as their LMS, big mistake, but nevertheless that's what they're doing. Their learning is very traditional. Their online pedagogy is very traditional. They describe it as social constructivist, but I don't think it is. It's very hard to do. Blackboard doesn't let you do those things, basically. It's a very poor tool. And so, unless they've changed since I was there, which is a couple of years ago, they could be doing so much better. And that's
so what does a course look like there then? If we've got the Melbourne model, what's this one?
Their courses are about 12 weeks. So it's basically the same as a university blended learning course. And the students enrol through a separate enrolment channel, I think. A lot of them are enrolled directly by SEEK Learning. But one of the problems they had when I was there was the salespeople were on high incentives to recruit students who were not necessarily capable of doing the course. The courses tend to be aimed at mature age students. Well, mature age, I don't really have to say mature age anymore. Alternative entry, I think is the correct term. But stay-at-home female students, mid-20s. So that and yeah, so the idea was that they would have that flexible learning capability. But there were lots of difficulties. So in terms of the teaching, the subject matter experts from the university did not teach into these courses. All of the courses were supported by what they call e-learning tutors, who get paid sessionally. And so the students are split into groups. So if there are 60 students in a course, they'll be split into maybe 3 groups. Each one has an e-learning tutor who essentially is somebody, often in industry. Sometimes they are academics, maybe they're at Swinburne or somewhere else, but they're not the primary subject matter expert. But they get paid and they put their hours into supporting the students. They also have a group of, I've forgotten the name that they used, a small group of 4 or 5 people who support them with non-academic issues. So some technical issues, but also things like fees and those sorts of administrative queries. What Swinburne Online did do was they had a group of academic staff that are within the institution. They have an academic director, and the academic staff are responsible for several courses. So they're generalists. So they might offer 3 or 4 courses in accounting, and then they would have one academic senior academic employed within Swinburne Online who would oversee the academic rigour and quality of that course.
What are the fee arrangements like? Is it full fee for the students?
I'm not sure. I think they're eligible for fee help, but I can't
It's a
remember.
degree.
It's a degree. Yeah.
It'll be the same with OUA.
Yeah.
What would it be, Andrea, do you know?
Yeah, would they pay the same price as someone that's going?
Yes.
Okay.
They do. I had a teacher who taught at Swinburne,
Yeah.
and she was also one of those tutors.
Yeah.
So everything was given to her. It was into the certificate for the diploma level.
Yeah.
And she had her groups assigned, but it was somebody else developing everything. So they had nothing to do with the content. It was just given to them.
Yeah.
So.
Now, when I was
And students were sort of they were eligible to help or.
That's right. Now, a lot of the academic staff were very unhappy with when I was there with the arrangements with Swinburne Online, because they were not even credited in the final produced course. So they did feel.
What about the students? How did they? Do you think they had a sense of the fact that they weren't with being taught by a subject matter expert?
I think the e-learning advisors they may not be the expert, but they are a expert. It's not as if we drag people in off the streets.
So they have subject matter knowledge, but they are not. They would.
They're not. They wouldn't have driven the content. So they would
they'd
be the
like
same
a
as a tutor.
Okay.
Yeah, and in fact they were called tutors. They were e-learning tutors. But they would never actually get to speak to the senior academic running the course, or who provided that course.
I guess they wouldn't even know who it is. They wouldn't even know who it is.
No, they wouldn't know who it is because that person is never credited.
Yes, we'd have to be conscious, or Swinburne would have to be conscious of there being an equitable arrangement there, same degree.
Right. Yeah.
Wouldn't they?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Same degree, very different
Yeah.
pathway.
That's exactly right. So
Different
I mean, that was an area I didn't see too much of, but I did know that there was a lot of work done at academic board level, and the courses still had to be progressed through the normal validation routes. At the end of the day, they get a Swinburne University degree. They don't get a Swinburne Online degree. So it's very, very important.
And in terms of the structure of the courses, Mark, is it again a focus on reading and on, like discussion board interaction, or what?
Yes. So lots of readings, lots of text written by the learning designers. We tried to get as much interactivity in there as we could. They weren't very keen on video at all, so they used virtually no video. There were quizzes and assessments, and then a high degree of focus on group work and discussion. But again, Blackboard is very poor at that, and one of the biggest headaches was creating the groups and actually getting it into a format where it was easy to use and created an environment that was useful. And I think they could have done so much better. They made a bad choice at the start.
Do you know what their retention's like?
It was not. I don't know what it is now.
Yeah.
It was quite poor to start with. It was about 25%, I think. So it's very low. But they have improved a lot. And certainly when I was leaving, they were doing a lot of work with learning analytics to pick up at-risk students early on and to provide them with assistance. And I think in that environment, it was actually easier to do that than in the sort of environment we have here, the blended learning environment, because you have a direct comparison with other students. Option 4 is outsource design and development of courses to a commercial provider. Now these, I just discovered in the last couple of days, there's actually a term for this. There's a 3-letter acronym, and they are called online program managers. And basically what tends to happen is that you will approach a private company, university approaches a private company, probably the other way around actually, and says, we will manage your courses for you online, and we will have some of your fees, thank you. And so there are a few of those. One is KeyPath, who RMIT are currently working with. They're an American advertising company, specialised marketing company in higher education. Who've been doing that for the last 20 years, and then the last couple of years have moved into online education. So they work with the university. They'll say, we'll manage all of your courses, we'll look after everything, and we'll just take a cut of your fees. We'll work with your learning with your subject matter experts, and we'll create it for you. So another famous one, a very large one, is this is probably the largest of its kind in the world, academic partnerships. La Trobe University had an agreement with academic partnerships to build their courses, and again they will work with subject matter experts to build a whole range of courses, and then they manage them for a proportion of the fee ongoing. I think Andrea might talk about Pearson as well. Pearson also offer this sort of service.
No, I put that into your slide section.
Sorry?
I put that into your slides.
Oh, did you? Oh.
You will talk to us.
So Pearson, and I was just looking at Pearson just before I went in here, and it turned out that the University of Florida, for example, signed a contract with Pearson for $186 million to deliver their courses over a period of 11 years. Something that after 2 years broke down and failed. So there are quite a few horror stories in this field. Pearson did a similar thing at UNE, and I gather that went pear-shaped, to use the technical term.
Yes.
I haven't got the details of that, and yeah, there's